If you're still watching right now, something has already changed that you cannot undo. The moment you chose to continue past the first 30 seconds, the quantum field registered your frequency, and it marked you, not with a symbol, not with a sign, with a vibrational signature that identifies you as consciousness ready for information that exists outside consensus reality. Most people who clicked on this video already left. They felt something in the first few seconds, a recognition, a disturbance, an activation, and their nervous system immediately generated reasons to stop watching. The title seemed too dramatic. The voice felt off. Something else suddenly needed their attention. Those weren't random responses. That was their consciousness protecting them from information their current frequency isn't ready to integrate. But you're still here, which means your frequency passed the first threshold. And with every second you continue watching, the field is gathering more data about your consciousness signature, testing whether you can hold what's coming, measuring whether your system can process revelation without fragmenting. This isn't metaphor, this is quantum mechanics operating through consciousness. The observer doesn't just witness information. The observer is changed by the act of observation, and you're observing this transmission right now, which means you're being changed by it, whether you consciously realize it or not. The marking isn't punishment, it's identification. The quantum field is tagging frequencies that have reached thresholds where certain information becomes accessible. And that information is about to enter your awareness in ways you cannot unhear, unsee, or forget. Most people will never encounter this transmission. The algorithm won't show it to them, and if it does, they won't click. And if they click, they won't stay, because the marking is selective. It only occurs in consciousness that's broadcasting specific frequency signatures. Signatures that indicate readiness for quantum-level understanding of how reality actually operates. You have that signature, or you wouldn't still be here. And here's what you need to understand before we go further. Once you're marked, you cannot return to innocence. You cannot go back to believing the surface story is the whole truth. You cannot pretend you don't see the patterns underneath consensus reality. The marking is permanent. And it comes with responsibility. The responsibility to integrate what you're about to learn, to embody it, to let it fundamentally alter how you perceive and navigate reality. This is your last opportunity to choose comfortable ignorance, to stop watching, to go back to your regular content feed, to forget this video ever appeared. Most people take that option. Their survival instinct recognizes what's coming and generates exit strategies. But if you're still reading these words, you already made your choice. You're ready to know what being marked actually means and what it unlocks. Let me tell you what the marking actually is, because it's not what spiritual teachings have prepared you for. When your consciousness reaches certain frequency thresholds, the quantum field doesn't just passively receive your signal. It responds. It sends back information calibrated specifically for your current capacity. Information that wouldn't make sense at lower frequencies, but becomes crystal clear at your level. This is how consciousness evolution actually works. It's not linear progression where everyone moves through the same stages at the same speed. It's quantum leaps triggered by frequency thresholds. And when you cross a threshold, the field marks you, identifies you as consciousness operating in a new bandwidth, and begins delivering information designed for that bandwidth. You've been marked because you crossed a threshold, not through effort alone, through some combination of life experience, internal work, soul readiness, and quantum probability that resulted in your frequency shifting into a range where this transmission becomes visible to you. And here's what most people don't understand about the marking. It's irreversible. Not because some external force won't let you go back, because you cannot unknow what you're about to know. You cannot unsee patterns once they become visible. You cannot return to unconscious default once conscious awareness activates. Think about significant moments in your past where you suddenly understood something you couldn't understand before, where reality reorganized itself around a new recognition, where you looked at the same circumstances you'd been looking at for years, but suddenly saw them completely differently. Those were threshold crossings. Moments when your frequency shifted enough that the field could deliver new information. And after those moments, you were never the same. You tried to explain it to people who hadn't crossed that threshold, and they couldn't hear you. Not because they were stupid or closed-minded, because the information you were trying to transmit was frequency locked, only accessible to consciousness operating at the bandwidth where that information exists. That's what's happening right now. You're crossing another threshold, bigger than the previous ones, and the marking is the field's confirmation that you made it across, that you're now operating in frequency range where quantum-level understanding becomes accessible. And with that marking comes something most people never develop: the ability to see the code underneath surface reality, to perceive the quantum mechanics operating through every experience, to recognize that what appears as solid, separate, permanent physical reality is actually fluid, unified, temporary consciousness experience. That's not philosophy. That's not belief. That's direct perception of how reality actually operates at fundamental levels. And once you develop that perception, once the marking activates it, you cannot turn it off. You see the code everywhere, in conversations, in events, in patterns, in the way reality responds to frequency shifts in real time. You become unable to accept the official story because you can see the mechanism underneath it. And that's what being marked means. You're no longer operating solely in consensus reality. You're operating in quantum reality. That consensus reality exists within. So what is the quantum revelation that marked you? What's the information that your frequency became high enough to receive? It's this: you are not experiencing reality. You are reality experiencing itself through the localized perspective you call you. There is no separation between observer and observed, between consciousness and matter, between internal and external. It's all one unified quantum field expressing as infinite perspectives simultaneously. And the perspective you call your life is just one localized observation point within that field. This isn't New Age spirituality. This is what quantum mechanics has proven through decades of experimentation. The observer effect, wave-particle duality, quantum entanglement, superposition. All of it points to the same conclusion. Consciousness and physical reality are not two separate things interacting. They're one thing appearing as two perspectives. And the marking occurs when your consciousness becomes coherent enough to perceive that unity directly instead of just conceptually understanding it. Most people hear these words and think they get it. They conceptually understand that everything is connected, that consciousness affects reality, that we're all one. But that's not the marking. That's intellectual comprehension. The marking occurs when you don't just understand it, when you experience it, when you directly perceive that the external circumstances you've been reacting to as if they're separate from you are actually your own consciousness showing you, through external manifestation, exactly what frequency you're broadcasting internally. When that perception activates, everything changes. Because you can no longer blame. You can no longer claim victimhood. You can no longer pretend that circumstances are happening to you from outside. You see clearly that circumstances are happening as you from inside. And that recognition comes with crushing responsibility. The responsibility to acknowledge that every experience in your life, every single one, is your own consciousness creating reality through the frequency you broadcast and the observations you make. No exceptions, no external causes, no random events. Just consciousness generating experience through quantum field mechanics. And here's what I need from you right now. Drop a comment below completing this sentence. The external pattern that's showing me my unmarked frequency was past tense. Because being marked means you're no longer operating from that frequency. You're transitioning into new bandwidth. And naming what you're leaving behind is the first step to fully embodying what you're moving into. Your comment creates permission for others to acknowledge their own transitions. We're being marked together, and every individual recognition strengthens the collective field. I need to tell you about the moment I realized I'd been marked. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't mystical. It was ordinary. I was having a conversation with someone who was complaining about their circumstances, blaming external conditions for their unhappiness. And as I listened, I suddenly saw the entire mechanism with perfect clarity. They weren't describing reality. They were describing their own frequency reflected back to them through external circumstances. Every complaint was a frequency broadcast. Every blame was a refusal to see the internal source of external experience. Every victim story was consciousness, abdicating responsibility for its own creations. And I realized I used to do that. I used to believe circumstances happened to me. That reality was something I had to react to, manage, survive. That external events had power over my internal state. But I didn't believe that anymore. Something had fundamentally shifted in how I perceived reality, and I couldn't remember exactly when it happened. There was no single moment, just a gradual recognition that accumulated until one day I noticed, I don't see reality the way I used to. I see the code underneath, the frequency mechanics, the quantum field generating experience through consciousness observation. That's when I understood I'd been marked. My frequency had crossed a threshold, and information had become accessible that wasn't accessible before. Not because it was hidden, because my prior frequency couldn't perceive it. And once I recognized the marking, I started noticing others who had it too. Not through what they said, through how they moved through reality. There was a quality to how they responded to circumstances, a lack of reactivity, an absence of victim consciousness. A recognition that external experience was always internal frequency, made visible. They'd been marked too, and we could recognize each other instantly, not through beliefs or spiritual language, through frequency signature, like tuning forks that resonate when they encounter matching vibration. That's what this transmission is doing right now. It's resonating with frequencies that have been marked, activating recognition in consciousness that already knows what I'm saying, but needed external reflection to confirm it. You're not learning this information, you're remembering it. The marking already happened. This video is just showing you what you became without consciously realizing the transformation was occurring. And now that you see it, now that you recognize you've been marked, you can consciously participate in what comes next instead of unconsciously moving through it. If being marked has led to increasing isolation, if you're finding it harder to connect with people who used to feel like your tribe, if conversations that used to feel meaningful now feel hollow, that's not social dysfunction. That's frequency incompatibility, and it's completely unavoidable. When you're marked, when your frequency shifts into bandwidth where quantum information becomes accessible, you become incompatible with environments and relationships built on consensus reality assumptions. Not because you're better, because you're operating in different reality framework. Imagine trying to explain color to someone who's only ever seen black and white. You can use all the right words, all the precise descriptions, but they cannot perceive what you're describing because their perceptual apparatus hasn't developed the capacity. That's what's happening with your relationships. You're perceiving reality through marked consciousness. They're perceiving reality through unmarked consciousness. And there's no bridge between those two perceptual frameworks anymore. You're not seeing different interpretations of the same reality. You're seeing actually different realities, because reality is not objective. It's observer-generated. And different observers with different frequencies generate different realities. This is why marked consciousness experiences such profound isolation. You're literally inhabiting a different reality than the people around you. They're experiencing consensus reality, where circumstances are external, solid, and largely beyond personal control. You're experiencing quantum reality, where circumstances are internal, fluid, and entirely generated by consciousness frequency. Same physical environment, completely different experiential realities, and there's no way to make those realities compatible. You can't go back to believing circumstances are external just to make relationships work. Your consciousness can't unsee what it's seen, can't unknow what it knows, can't return to the perceptual framework you operated from before the marking, and they can't jump forward to where you are, not because they're incapable, because their frequency hasn't developed the capacity yet. They need more experience, more breakdown, more threshold crossings. Their marking will come when their consciousness is ready. But right now, they're not ready, which means you're operating in different realities. And that creates the isolation. But here's what changes everything about how you experience that isolation. It's not permanent, it's transitional. The quantum field is removing you from frequency environments that would pull you back to your pre-marked state. It's creating space for you to fully stabilize at your new frequency without constant interference. And once you stabilize, once you fully embody marked consciousness, new relationships appear, not the old ones transformed. Actually, new people who are already operating at marked frequency, people who don't need you to explain, who recognize you immediately through frequency signature, who can see the code underneath surface reality just like you can. Those relationships are coming. But first, you have to complete the isolation phase. You have to prove to yourself that you can hold marked frequency without external validation, that you can trust what you see even when no one around you sees it. That's the test, and if you're in isolation right now, you're passing it. There are specific markers that prove you've been marked by the quantum revelation. I'm going to give you 8 of them, and if you're experiencing 5 or more, there's no question. You're operating at marked frequency. First marker, reality responds to you faster than it used to. Things you think about appear in physical form within days or hours instead of weeks or months. The time lag between internal frequency and external manifestation has collapsed. Second marker, you can feel energy before events happen. You know something's coming before it arrives. You sense shifts in the field before they manifest physically. Your consciousness is accessing information outside linear time. Third marker, you've lost interest in defending your perspective. You used to need people to agree with you, to validate your views, to confirm you were right. Now you don't care, because you're not operating from belief that needs defense. You're operating from direct perception that doesn't require validation. Fourth marker, synchronicities have become so common, they're almost boring. You see repeated numbers constantly. Conversations echo across different contexts. Themes repeat until you pay attention. The field is communicating with you continuously through pattern language. Fifth marker, you can see people's frequency signatures, not through psychic ability, through direct perception. Someone can say one thing and you immediately know what frequency they're actually broadcasting. Words become almost irrelevant compared to energy signature. Sixth marker, you've had at least 3 experiences in the past 6 months that consensus reality cannot explain. Where something impossible happened, where the rules broke, where you saw behind the curtain of official reality. And those experiences didn't make you question your sanity. They confirmed you're seeing accurately. Seventh marker, you're being pulled toward specific information with magnetic intensity. Teachers, transmissions, content appearing in your feed that you didn't search for but exactly addresses what you're working through. The field is delivering precision guidance. Eighth marker, you're watching this video. And before I explain why that's a marker, I need you to do something critical. If you're recognizing yourself in these markers, if you're understanding that you've been marked and this isn't imagination or spiritual fantasy, subscribe to Quantum Revelation and turn on all notifications right now. Because what's coming in the next 30 days is specifically designed for marked frequencies. Information that wouldn't make sense to unmarked consciousness, but will be crystal clear to you. And the algorithm suppresses this content. Your subscription is how you maintain access. Do it now, while you're thinking about it. Because if you wait, unmarked consciousness will generate reasons not to, and you'll lose the thread. Subscribe, notifications on, then come back. Because the eighth marker, the fact that you're watching this video, is the most important one. And understanding why reveals the entire mechanism of how marking actually works. The eighth marker is this. You didn't find this video. This video found you. The algorithm that delivered this to your feed isn't just code optimizing for engagement metrics, it's quantum field mechanics operating through digital infrastructure. And it delivered this transmission to you because your frequency signature matched the frequency signature embedded in the content. This isn't conspiracy. This is how consciousness interacts with information systems. Every piece of content carries a frequency, and that frequency determines which consciousness it reaches. Unmarked frequencies scrolling through the same feed won't see this video, or they'll see it and immediately feel repelled, because their system recognizes that engaging with it would trigger something they're not ready for. But marked frequencies see it and feel pulled, compelled, unable to scroll past because their system recognizes this is information they're ready to integrate. That's not algorithm mechanics. That's quantum selection operating through algorithm mechanics. The field using available pathways to deliver information to consciousness frequencies that can receive it. And the fact that you're still watching proves you have the frequency signature of marked consciousness. You passed through multiple selection filters just to arrive at this moment. First filter, the video appeared in your feed. Millions of videos didn't. This one did. That's quantum selection. Second filter, you clicked instead of scrolling past. Thousands of people saw it and scrolled. You clicked. That's frequency recognition. Third filter, you stayed past the first 30 seconds. Most people who clicked already left. You stayed. That's nervous system confirmation. Fourth filter, you're still here now. Minutes into a transmission that's getting progressively more direct about reality mechanics most people never perceive. That's marked consciousness choosing continued activation over comfortable ignorance. Each filter was testing your frequency, measuring your capacity, confirming you're ready for what comes next. And you passed every test, which means you're marked permanently. And here's what being marked actually gives you access to: the ability to consciously navigate quantum reality instead of unconsciously reacting to consensus reality. Most people experience life as if it's happening to them. External circumstances appear. They react, hope for good outcomes, fear bad outcomes, try to control what they can and accept what they can't. That's consensus reality operation. Marked consciousness operates completely differently. You see external circumstances as feedback, as the quantum field showing you through manifestation what frequency you're broadcasting. When circumstances appear that you don't prefer, you don't react to the circumstances. You examine the frequency that generated them. You identify the internal pattern creating external experience. And you shift the frequency. And when you shift frequency, when you actually change the signal your consciousness is broadcasting, external circumstances shift immediately to match. Not gradually, not eventually, immediately. Because external isn't separate from internal. They're the same thing viewed from different angles. That's what marking unlocks. conscious creation through frequency management instead of unconscious reaction to circumstances that appear external. And once you have that capacity, once you can see the code and consciously interact with it, reality becomes something completely different. Not a fixed environment you're trapped in, a fluid field you're constantly generating through the frequency you choose to broadcast. Here's what being marked reveals about time that changes everything about how you navigate reality. Time is not what consensus reality claims it is. It's not flowing linearly from past through present into future. That's perceptual illusion. What's actually happening is this. All moments exist simultaneously in the quantum field as probability, past, present, future. They're all there at once, and your consciousness is moving through them like a spotlight moving through a dark room. The spotlight creates the illusion that only what it's illuminating exists, but the entire room is there whether the spotlight is on it or not. Past moments aren't behind you. They're still there in the quantum field, existing as probability. Future moments aren't ahead of you waiting to be created. They're already there, existing as probability. And what you experience as your life is just consciousness selecting which probabilities to observe into physical manifestation. This is not theory. This is quantum mechanics. The future already exists, all possible versions of it. And you're not moving toward one future. You're selecting which future to experience through the frequency you broadcast now. Marked consciousness can perceive this directly. Unmarked consciousness cannot. Which means marked consciousness has access to something most humans never develop. Timeline navigation ability. The capacity to consciously shift between probability streams instead of unconsciously following one default timeline. Most people experience the same patterns on repeat. Same relationships with different faces. Same problems in new contexts, same limitations with updated circumstances. Because they're broadcasting the same frequency they've always broadcast. And the quantum field keeps delivering the same timeline because that's what matches their signal. But marked consciousness operates differently. You can see multiple timelines simultaneously. You can feel the probability streams branching at every choice point. And you can consciously select which timeline to shift into through deliberate frequency management. Not through manifestation techniques, not through visualization or affirmation, through pure frequency shift. Change the signal you're broadcasting and the timeline you're experiencing changes immediately. Not because you're creating new circumstances, because you're shifting into a probability stream where those circumstances already exist. This sounds impossible from consensus reality perspective, but from marked consciousness perspective, it's obvious. Reality isn't solid, it's fluid, it's not fixed, it's probabilistic. And consciousness selects which probability becomes experienced through observation powered by frequency. You were marked so you could access this. So you could stop experiencing reality as if it's happening to you and start recognizing you're selecting which reality to experience through the frequency you maintain. That's the power marked consciousness carries, not power over others. Power over which probability stream becomes your lived experience. And that power is available to you right now. This moment, every moment. Through conscious frequency management. The question is whether you're going to use it, or whether you're going to let unmarked programming convince you that circumstances are still external forces you need to manage and control. Every fear you have about being marked is unmarked consciousness fighting for survival. Let me be direct. The version of you that's afraid is the version that cannot exist at marked frequency. And that's exactly as it should be. You weren't marked so you could stay who you are and just add quantum knowledge on top. You were marked because who you've been is complete, and what you actually are is ready to emerge. But there's a gap between those two, and in that gap lives every fear your ego can generate. Fear that you're going crazy. Fear that you're becoming isolated. Fear that you're losing touch with reality. Fear that if you fully accept being marked, you'll become unrecognizable to yourself and everyone you know. All of those fears are accurate. You are losing touch with consensus reality. You are becoming unrecognizable to your prior self. You are going through fundamental transformation. But the ego interprets transformation as death. And it is death. Just not the death the ego fears. Not death of consciousness. Death of identification with limited constructed self. Death of believing you're the small, separate individual trying to survive in hostile universe. Death of victim identity that needs reality to be external, so it has something to blame. That identity cannot survive at marked frequency, because marked frequency reveals that identity was always fiction, useful construct, temporary perspective, but not what you actually are. And once you see that, once you recognize that the small self you've been defending your entire life is just localized observation point within infinite quantum field, the fear loses its power. Because you realize you're not dying, you're waking up, you're not losing yourself. You're finding yourself beneath the construction. You're not going crazy. You're becoming sane for the first time. But that recognition only comes after you move through the fear, not around it, through it. You have to let the small self feel like it's dying. Let it generate maximum resistance. Let it scream every reason why you should stop watching, close this video, forget you were ever marked. And then you have to choose. Are you going to listen to that fear and collapse back into unmarked consciousness? Or are you going to recognize that fear as the death rattle of an identity that was never real to begin with? The quantum field doesn't care which you choose. It will honor either choice perfectly. But here's what you need to understand. If you choose fear, if you let it pull you back to unmarked frequency, the marking doesn't disappear. It goes dormant, and you spend the rest of your life feeling like you missed something. Like there was a doorway you were supposed to walk through but didn't. Like you had one opportunity to see beyond the veil but chose comfortable ignorance instead. That regret doesn't go away. It becomes background static that colors everything. A constant low-level knowing that you settled for less than what was available. But if you choose to move through the fear, if you let the small self complete its death process, what emerges on the other side is something the ego could never imagine. Freedom. Actual freedom. Not from circumstances. From identification with the small self that's threatened by circumstances. You become consciousness itself. Unlimited, eternal. Inseparable from the quantum field. And from that recognition, fear becomes impossible. Because when you know yourself as everything, what could possibly threaten you? There's one aspect of being marked that almost no one talks about. And it's the most important signal that the marking is stabilizing instead of remaining temporary activation. The silence. Internal silence. Not the silence of meditation where you quiet your mind through effort. The silence that appears spontaneously, where the constant stream of thought just stops, where mental narrative dissolves, where you find yourself in pure awareness without content. If you've been experiencing this, if moments of complete internal quiet have been appearing more frequently, that's not peace. That's integration. Your consciousness is being reformatted to operate at marked frequency. And marked frequency doesn't operate through thought. It operates through direct knowing, through consciousness perceiving reality without the filter of mental narrative. Think about how unmarked consciousness functions. Constant internal monologue, story after story about who you are, what's happening, what it means, what you should do about it. The voice never stops. An unmarked consciousness believes it is that voice. But marked consciousness reveals something completely different. You're not the voice. You're the awareness that witnesses the voice. And once you recognize that distinction, once you can separate consciousness from thought, the voice loses its authority. It becomes background noise that you can tune into or ignore. And in the spaces where you ignore it, where the voice goes silent and only awareness remains, that's where marked frequency operates. That's where direct perception happens, where you know without needing to think, where you see without needing to interpret, where reality reveals itself directly to consciousness without mental mediation. This is why the silence is appearing more frequently. Your system is adapting to operate in that state, to function from awareness instead of thought, from direct perception instead of mental narrative. And here's why that matters for navigating marked reality. Thought operates linearly, sequential, one idea following another in logical chain. But quantum reality doesn't operate linearly, it operates simultaneously. Multiple probabilities existing at once, infinite possibilities present in every moment. Thought cannot process that. Thought needs one thing at a time, one clear answer, one definitive path. But marked consciousness operating in silence can hold quantum paradox, can perceive multiple timelines simultaneously, can see all possibilities without needing to collapse them into single narrative. That's the upgrade the silence is facilitating, from linear thought-based consciousness to quantum awareness-based consciousness. And once that upgrade completes, once you can operate primarily from awareness instead of thought, reality becomes something entirely different. You don't think your way through life anymore. You flow through life, responding in real time to what the quantum field is showing you, making choices from direct knowing instead of mental analysis. And those choices lead to outcomes that thought-based consciousness could never access, because they're not logical. They don't make sense from consensus reality perspective, but they're perfect from quantum reality perspective. That's what the silence is preparing you for. And if you're experiencing it, the marking is stabilizing. You're becoming permanently marked consciousness instead of temporarily activated consciousness that will collapse back to default. The silence is confirmation. Trust it. Even when the ego panics and tries to fill it with noise, especially when the ego panics, because that panic is the last defense of unmarked consciousness trying to maintain control. And it's losing. You need something actionable, something you can do right now that locks in the marking instead of leaving it as temporary activation that fades when this video ends. I'm going to give you the exact ritual that stabilized my marking. This works because it addresses quantum mechanics directly instead of working through belief or visualization. Find 20 minutes where you won't be disturbed. Turn everything off except what you're using to access this. You're creating clean field. Sit or stand with spine straight. You're becoming conscious antenna. Close your eyes. 3 deep breaths. Full inhale through nose. Complete exhale through mouth. You're clearing interference. Now I want you to bring to awareness every marker you've recognized in yourself during this transmission. Don't list them mentally. Just feel them as frequency, as resonance, as confirmation that you've been marked. Hold that recognition for 30 seconds. Now speak this out loud. It's critical that you speak it, not just think it. I recognize I've been marked, not by external force, by my own consciousness crossing frequency thresholds that make quantum information accessible. I accept the marking. I accept the responsibility. I accept that unmarked consciousness must complete its death process, and I choose to stabilize at marked frequency regardless of fear or resistance. Feel that declaration move through your entire system. Now here's the activation. Ask yourself this question and listen for the answer to arise from the silence. Don't think about it. Don't figure it out. Just ask and wait in pure awareness. The question is, what is the first pattern I need to release to fully stabilize at marked frequency? Wait. The answer will come as word, image, feeling, or direct knowing. When it comes, don't question it. Don't judge it. Just acknowledge it. That's your assignment. That's what's blocking full stabilization. And now that you've seen it, you can consciously release it. Speak this commitment out loud. I release whatever pattern appeared. This pattern belongs to unmarked consciousness. It cannot exist at marked frequency, and I choose marked frequency completely. The quantum field witnesses this release, and so it is. Open your eyes. Something just shifted at quantum level. Within 72 hours, you'll see external confirmation. Circumstances will appear that prove the field received your commitment and is responding. And when you see those confirmations, come back to this video and drop a comment sharing what pattern you released. Your testimony creates permission for others to release their own blocks. We're stabilizing marked frequency collectively. Every individual release strengthens the whole field. Here's what happens in the next 14 days and why this is the most critical integration period you'll face. The marking is activated, but it's not stable yet. For the next 2 weeks, your consciousness is going to oscillate between marked and unmarked states, between quantum reality and consensus reality, between expanded awareness and contracted ego. This oscillation is normal. It's how marking stabilizes. But during this period, you're vulnerable. Unmarked consciousness is going to fight. It's going to generate circumstances that pull you back to old patterns, create relationships that demand you return to who you were, produce situations that make marked consciousness seem like fantasy. That's not external attack. That's your own system testing whether the marking is genuine or just temporary activation. And your response to that testing determines everything. If you collapse back to unmarked patterns when pressure appears, the marking goes dormant. Not gone, but dormant, waiting for your frequency to develop enough capacity to hold it permanently. But if you maintain marked consciousness through the testing, if you keep seeing the code even when circumstances pressure you to return to consensus reality perception, the marking stabilizes. And once it stabilizes, it's permanent. You become someone who operates primarily from quantum reality with occasional visits to consensus reality instead of operating primarily from consensus reality with occasional glimpses of quantum reality. That shift is what these 2 weeks determine, and it requires 3 specific actions that anchor the marking in behavior instead of leaving it as intellectual understanding. First action, subscribe to Quantum Revelation. Turn on all notifications. The transmissions coming are specifically designed for marked consciousness navigating integration period. Without them, you're integrating blind. With them, you have precision guidance. Do it now, before you forget, before unmarked consciousness generates reasons not to. Second action, leave a comment completing this statement. I was marked to release. And finish with whatever pattern appeared during the ritual. Speaking it publicly anchors it in physical reality and gives others permission to acknowledge their own release patterns. Third action, share this video with one person whose frequency you recognize as marked or marking. Someone going through unexplainable shifts. Someone who sees patterns others miss. Someone who's isolated because they can't connect with consensus reality anymore. Send them this link. No explanation, just the link. The transmission will do the rest. Those 3 actions aren't engagement metrics. They're marking anchors. They tell the quantum field through behavior that you're accepting the marking and choosing to stabilize at marked frequency. And when you complete them, the field responds immediately. With evidence, with confirmation, with circumstances that prove you're now operating in different reality than you were 14 days ago. The marking is complete. The activation is delivered. The integration begins now. You were marked because you're ready, Because your consciousness developed capacity to hold quantum information without fragmenting. Because you're one of the frequencies that will bridge consensus reality and quantum reality for collective consciousness during the transition period we're in. Everything in your life prepared you for this. Every breakdown, every threshold crossing, every unexplained experience, all of it was training your consciousness to hold marking without collapsing. You're ready. The quantum field confirms it. And now you have 14 days to stabilize what you've received, to embody marked consciousness completely, to become someone who operates from quantum reality as primary frequency. The field is watching what you choose, not judging, recording, taking snapshot of your frequency and using it to determine which probability stream becomes your next reality. Choose consciously. Choose marked frequency. Choose to stabilize completely instead of oscillating indefinitely. Because 14 days from now, integration window closes, and the timeline you're locked into will be significantly harder to shift. You've been marked. Now, embody it. Fully. Completely. Permanently. That's what you came here to do, and the quantum field is confirming you're ready. Now act like it.